Hello, welcome to Karma Divinorum's Emporium. I am going to be running through a visualization practice with all you guys and gals out there. I am talking about a very specific visualization practice. It's based on what we are all well aware of, so it should be something easy to focus on and should hopefully provide some valuable insight. The topic today for our visualization practice is death. Now, I have with me a whiteboard. I will be putting images onto the whiteboard, and it will include the general idea of what the visualization practice is like. So if we have, I'm going to do it this way. If we have ourselves, okay, really simple, just think about your body. Think about, okay, I'm this form, right? Just human body, okay? Now we are on a trajectory, right, in our life, and I'm going to be symbolizing death in red, and we typically look at death as kind of a distant dot in the future, or you can visualize it as that, as a thought experiment, as a visualization practice. You can take the death and place it at a point where you see yourself going to be. Now, the visualization comes in where I want to say, take the death and pick it up. And after you pick it up, place it elsewhere. So I'm just going to flip this around for a second. I'm being quite literal here, but in a visualization type of way. You don't look at death as a distant point. You pick it up as though it is right there. Okay. Now, what do you do with it? You need to place it elsewhere. You need to place it somewhere else. Where do you place it? This is sort of a trick question, because death is not the destination per se. It sort of is a destination, but it's not meant to be the destination. It is meant to be the journey. And seeing as you can pick it up and place it somewhere else, where better to keep it than on yourself. So just to adjust this. Now, to be clear, the whiteboard is only for assistance in just visual practice. It's really simple, but it makes a difference when you place names to the image, right? So here we are. We have our entire life to travel forward in time. If we carry death with us, then we do not have to delay its potential position in the future. We are taking it upon ourselves to avoid the path that slowly spirals towards the inevitable acceptance of death. Okay, so we're carrying death with us. We're going along a trajectory. Whereas if we place death somewhere else, say, I don't want to deal with this right now, then we end up on this trajectory. And we spiral back towards it because we're supposed to be carrying it with us at all times. Now, what is going to happen when you start visualizing death, and not only death, but carrying it with you all the time? That's a little bit personal for everybody. That's not going to be the same necessarily for any two people. It's going to be unique in their own way, and there is going to be a difference in results over the path traveled, over the course taken of just carrying death with us as we go along. Then it's an addition to your system, and it actually can help you grow both physically and spiritually. I am going to try to jot down a description. I'll kind of narrate as I go along what I'm drawing out. I am going to start with just the mind, and I'm going to symbolize the mind with a circle, and inside that circle is mostly darkness. There's just a little bit of light. Okay? And where that little bit of light shines through is where we perceive from. So we need the light so that we can navigate, so that we can shed light on the darkness, right? And so there are one of two options. If the mind is dark and you are in the dark, then it sheds darkness on the darkness. it amplifies the darkness. Or if you're in the light, then it is shedding light on your mind and amplifying the light that stays in the darkness when the light is gone. It's similar to how you would think of one of those glow-in-the-dark toys or something. Like you charge it with the light, and then when it's in the dark, it's bioluminescent, right? And so by carrying death with us, in a way, we are illuminating the focus of light onto the darkness from within our own personal self. And where our mind is, our heart tends to go. So this is all I have right now. This is the mind, kind of shadowed, dark, just a little bit of light seeping through, right? Look at the light, amplifies the light. You look at the dark, it amplifies the dark. You look at either of them through the lens of death, then it amplifies the light, because you are accepting the darkness that you take death to be. But death is not what we think it is. Death is similar to knowledge. I take that from a couple of references. I derive that, I should say, from a couple of references. One of which is Star Trek, and the other is the Bible. I'm going to use the Bible as the example first. Just I'm not 100% dedicated to the Bible, but I see the analogy very clear in what I'm going to lay out here. Like, so this is sort of a bastardization of the Bible and what it's teaching, but I still believe it's the message that is getting across all the same. So Genesis, God creates the earth. He has all the trees that give life, and there's one tree. It's a fancy tree. It's the star of the garden, but no one is allowed to eat of it whatsoever, or they will die. Now, what is this tree with this fruit that if they eat of it, that they will die? Is it called the tree of death? No. This tree is called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay? So do you see where I'm coming from here? If you are in the darkness, then everything you perceive is of the darkness. But then if you all of a sudden have knowledge of the darkness when you did not have knowledge of the darkness previously, then that becomes the death of the darkness. And then you are carrying with you light. If that makes any sense. And now this is really simple. I know you're thinking essentially the same thing. It might not be as beautiful as it might be in your mind when you're thinking the Garden of Eden, but here we go. All these trees, right? Notice the fruits on all the other trees are black, and the fruit and the knowledge of the tree of good and evil the tree, the fruit, the knowledge of good and evil is all red. So then to eat of that fruit is to accept the death and to say, this knowledge gives me power, and that power is the death of my old self, right? So I'll try to draw this for you. It's just kind of hard to do sideways. So here you are, and let's just put a black aura around you because you have not yet accepted death, let's say. And then you eat of the fruit, and after eating of the fruit, your aura changes. So then you now carry with you the light of death. And this gives you power. This gives you real power. This allows you to recognize that death is not a destination. Death is the journey. You are already at death at any given time. Your death, the way you perceive it, as some sort of chaotic world happening out there, as some sort of mess to be cleaned up constantly. There's more to life than that. Going back to the earlier illustration, like you're on the one path, right? Going forward. If you carry the death with you, right? So here you're carrying the death, right? Whereas if you throw that death all the way to the future, say, I'm not going to worry about that today. I'm not going to worry about that probably tomorrow. I'm probably not going to worry about that next week, right? But then, you start to, I don't know, maybe you develop a sickness along the way, right? Like, so you might make it this far along the same lines, but then wherever you threw it in the future, it's just going to stay there. It's just going to keep staying there, and you'll orbit around it and you'll try to avoid it. You'll go to the doctor, and then all of a sudden everything will get all messy, and then you will die. Right? So this is supposed to all be a visualization practice, as I mentioned in the beginning. Hopefully you've been following along, but have you been visualizing it per se? The true power of the message that I'm getting across is in the visualization process. So let's start over. You got your little human being, looks more like one of those fawns from Lord of the Rings. You got yourself, right? And you've got death. Okay? Now you've probably understood by now what I'm saying about carrying death with yourself, and instead of leading yourself to death via death as a destination instead of a journey, right? Now, you might be thinking, well, this is entirely too consuming if I just take it up on myself. But it's because you're looking at it so far away that everything else around it looks like it. And then that's why you think it's going to consume you, because it just circles out larger and larger and larger. From that point, you think, oh my God, how am I going to avoid all of this destination, like, to get there? Like, but that's the thing. It's an alternative path. You need to veer off and go that direction. Whereas if you carry it with you, excuse me, if you carry it with you, then you are on whatever path you take. You can cut straight through it and go to the other side, and it will have never even been a reality. It will have just been a figment of your imagination, or some sort of other flutter in another dimension that's completely something else, and it doesn't need to catch your attention, right? So that's why you might have noticed I put the death here instead of instead of putting the death here, I put the death here, because right now the death is here in your head. Okay? Now that's the visualization practice. You need to recognize that the death is there. Okay? But you need to recognize that you're only looking at it as a teeny tiny little thing that happens, like, say, 50 years from now, right? Instead, you need to be looking at it as your aura and other people that have death in their mind like that are looking at you like this. if they hold it themselves and carry it with them, place it elsewhere, right? Put it somewhere else, then they also can be above that, right? And then that becomes their aura. And then it's just life is death. Like it's a duality. It is a flip side of either coin. The thing is, like they're coexisting. You are life, death is death. The same way a human is a human and a dog is a dog. The same way I'm myself and the wall behind me is a wall. I am me, death is death. They are two separate things. And yes, they can entangle. And if they entangle, that can become a problem. But if you just carry it with you, like in your soul, then it becomes the death of your old perceptions. It becomes the shedding away of all those previous layers of misconceptions and false realities about the world that like preach these things, right? And like the reference from Star Trek, going back to that, absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's along the lines of what I'm saying about about knowledge and death being on the same side of the coin. The longer you avoid the basic truth, the more advanced you get, and the more you solidify it. So here is like the basic truths, right? And then you're ignoring the basic truths. So you go one step away from the basic truth, and you go the next step away from the basic truth, and you go another and another, right? And eventually you get so far that you have mapped out your entire perception back to the basic truth. And by then, you are so shattered by the weight of your external perceptions that it's a collapse of that system, and then you will die. So like, look at yourself. Like, you are here, right? I'm using black to represent that, okay? You are death, okay? So you carry yourself with you no matter where you go, and death then becomes but a thing of the past. And it is as though you have died and entered into the afterlife. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you soon.